Play.
Hello guys, so yeah, the slams are back. We're back to last ball dropping and Mario is here with me. Yeah, let's talk about the women's maybe first today. That's kind of how I feel. We almost finished the entire day of play. We actually have one match that's going to roll over to tomorrow, but that we will talk about later, I suppose, if we're starting with the women's. Yeah, what was the most exciting match of the day on the women's side? We had a few upsets even, I would say.
Yeah, we had a few upsets. Let's say that talking about the women's tournament, of course, not only what happened on the court has been important
Right.
today because, of course, there's been so many, also unfortunately withdrawals, and well, probably I would say that Naomi Osaka's win for me feels pretty good because I didn't think this was an easy match even before it started for her, and at some point it was really getting difficult because after that first set, she then lost badly the second one. She was down a break 3-1 in the third set, and at some point it felt like she could have faced even she could have come really close to the defeat, but yeah, then in the end Paris got a bit tight, but still for me, it's been a good one for Naomi also because it was her first Wimbledon win in 6 years. Last appearance was 5 years ago, lost first round, and so it felt a big win, especially because with a lot of big girls going out for different reasons, this win feels important. Have you lost me?
Yeah, we're kind of losing you. Um, I was wondering
I
if
don't know
it's you or
why
me,
my
but
lap.
it seems to be you. Yeah.
No, it's me. I don't know why actually. Let me, because it's not connection. That's why.
Oh, it's not connection. Okay, it's not connection. But yeah, I guess I'll let you work on this, and I will just say, a few
Yeah,
things about
sure.
Osaka then as well. Ghosty says she's shaky. I will remind you guys of something. Remember the first round? Remember the first round at Roland Garros, and then what she does in the second? I
Yeah.
think that's not gonna happen really here. Of course, she's not playing Iga Swiatek in the second round as well. But like, I'm just trying to say Naomi has some sort of, I guess, experience. Struggling in the first round of a slam and then looking amazing in the next one. I don't know if that's gonna be the case here. I think she has a pretty tough draw, but there is a possibility for a run there. If she can beat Pliskova, maybe she can pull it off later. Yeah, sure. I actually didn't know, and that's crazy, but I actually didn't know that she lost a set. Oh, and now I'm breaking up. But I actually had no idea she lost a set because I took a bit of a nap in the middle of the day. And I just remembered her winning the first 6-1 and remembered that Diane Parry had 0 winners. So I'm surprised by that, yes. And also, Mario, you said something that like Diane Parry hasn't played Wimbledon in 5 years. And I'm like shocked she's around this long. I mean, it feels like yesterday when she was the junior number one. But that's neither here nor there. You mentioned the withdrawals, and I'm glad you did. We had Azarenka today, Sabalenka, Alexandrova on the women's side. How impactful are these? I mean, Sabalenka, a lot of people had going for the title, but we had some notes from her over the last week that she might not be at her very best. Alexandrova, I personally thought was going to have a huge chance against Raducanu today. And given sort of how the matchup progresses, maybe Azarenka is a little different to me because, well, that section was very competitive in general. So I don't feel like her withdrawal really changes much about the draw. There's still going to be very dangerous, kind of same quality players coming out of that. But certainly, I think Alexandrova and especially Sabalenka, like these were huge today. These really changed a lot about the event and made the brackets challenge just completely useless.
Yeah, actually, about Alexandrova, I felt like that round one match. This was my feeling before knowing about the withdrawal and also watching Raducanu playing today against Arasua, for me it felt like a difficult opener for both, but for both it was also a good chance considering the section they were in. And I also gave Alexandrova kind of a favorite in that one, even if her grasscourt form this year hasn't been as good as probably it was 2 years ago, last year. But still, we've seen her play some good matches, and for Raducanu would have been difficult today. We haven't seen, I mean, then every matchup is different, but Raducanu would have needed a higher level rather than the why she brought on the court today. And yeah, so these two of course feel big. And also, Azarenka probably, yeah, I agree with, maybe not as big in this dynamic, but still it's a big name, of course, missing. And I don't know. This year was also, she was also playing some consistent tennis, Azarenka, even if maybe without big peaks. But she still, have been ready for the tournaments, reached three semifinals. So it felt that she could have played a role even in this, let's say, start section of the draw, which now feels probably a bit better this half for Coco Gauff, who also played very well today.
Yeah, that Coco win. Anything to talk about there really? I mean, I saw some ridiculous comments on there from like Everett, for example, that this is the best she's ever played on grass or something like that. I mean, she played Caroline Dolhite.
Yes,
But
yes.
her second round will be very interesting to me. I watched Anka Todoni for the first time today. Not gonna lie, I definitely did not have too much experience with her. I have heard some good stuff about her, sure, but yeah, my watching of the lower tiers of women's tennis is definitely not as frequent as the men's. And I was very impressed. I'm really gonna be so excited for that one now. I mean, Todoni is such a natural on grass courts as well. Just the way that she was coming up with these situational slices in like very good moments, and I don't know, just like inventing something, which is a very big part of playing on this surface. And yeah, just in general as well. Obviously, just a couple of super strong aggressive shots. If Vansh was here, I would say very strong of both wings. And yeah, even the serving. It was a very nice performance. I'm so excited to see how she battles Coco. But yeah, just for Coco, I don't really think that, this event, I mean, this match tells us a lot.
No, no, absolutely. We about Todoni, I've known her pretty well because she's been in during the second week of the French Open. She's been champion in the WTA 125 in Bari, 20 kilometers away from my hometown. So I went to watch some of the days and even the final. And so yeah, really really been, she was on my watch list for, especially after playing so well in qualifying. She faced Danilovic, and it felt it could have been tricky because in these situations, usually we see some tricky things happening then in the main draw. But yeah, she still played very well. And yeah, I mean, not much to say about Coco, but still probably she also could not have done better than this. She's just, did her job, winning comfortably uh, against the opponent she had in front of her. And so yeah, still looking quite good, also because I have good memories from here, having watched her in Berlin, because I was focusing much on her serve, because I think the level she can bring on serve will probably determine a bit how she's going to play on the grass, a surface where maybe her forehand can be exposed even a little bit more, given maybe some low bounces. And it can become a bit trickier also than usual from the forehand side. But she can compensate with the serve if she's able to bring a good level with it. So yeah, so far good signs, but for sure we have to see more.
Yeah, just a quick correction, Mohamed Layani style from me. As previously I said just a few minutes ago that something about Pliskova, but of course she's out of the event. It's Schneider there, but that's kind of what I meant. Like that
Yeah.
section is so good that it doesn't matter that that one of the players is out, because someone good will come out of it anyway. And yeah, obviously Pliskova lost that thriller eventually. Very tough to keep track of 64 matches a day. But yeah, there was this one insanely watchable section on the women's side where I think one match delivered today, one kind of didn't. But I think we could talk about both really. That's kind of the the stories that are in that one. So I'm talking about Paula Badosa beating Karina Muchova 6-3, 6-2, quite lopsided, surprisingly. And also there was Brenda Fruhvirtova taking out Mirra Andreeva, last year's fourth rounders, Roland Garros semi-finalist, and I guess two highest ranked 17-year-olds battling against one another, and it's not the one that most expected pulling through.
Yeah, probably even more surprising for me, looking, the scoreline that came out from this Badosa Mukova match, which was, especially after Raducanu Alexandrova hasn't happened, was probably, the most exciting match of the day, probably because of these two players coming back, especially Mukova. We've seen her doing fine in Eastbourne, even if she withdrew then. And yeah, so that was a bit surprising, even because I was kind of expecting Mukova to bring more of her game and Badosa to try to fight her way in the match. And in the end, basically it happened the opposite, meaning that there hasn't really been any fight scoreline wise. But of course, as even Ghost is saying in the comment, it's too early for sure to say a lot about Mukova, because she's just been out for so much time, and so for sure we will need to watch more about her. Still good signs from Badosa, and Fruvirtova is of course probably maybe also the story of the day from this women's tournament, because in this match with the two youngest players in the draw, Andreeva is already a well-established player at the top of the game, French Open semi-finalist, and also a good run last year at her Wimbledon debut. She wins the first set 6-1, and you kind of start don't expecting that to happen anymore. But well, for sure we're gonna watch more of both in the future, probably also playing against each other. I think, like, because they're both very very good, and now of course will be very interesting to see how Virtua's run here develops, if there's going to be a run or not. But will be interesting to watch her now playing again for sure, because an exciting prospect for sure.
Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, she even trailed 1-6 love free, right? And then was kind of
Yeah,
also like taking medical time out around the time. In general, I feel like Andreeva is not a bad matchup for her. I mean, they were kind of just playing this like chess style tennis
yeah,
match in a way. Neither like willing to like fully go out on the attack, and that maybe that's something that Mira kind of, well, of course, to an extent as well. She doesn't really like playing Sabalenka or someone, but like she definitely handles herself a little bit better when someone else is probably like having just a tiny bit more in terms of like the burden of creating play. And Fruhvirtova doesn't really have that much of it, but of course she has that nice backhand. She can outmaneuver opponents around the court, and yeah, that's what she managed to do. I don't know if the match was super high quality in itself, but definitely one of the glimpses to the forward of the future, towards the future. Recently, Brenda retired in Makarska, I think a month ago, so a much needed win for her as well. And yeah, against Badosa, I don't know if I give her a high chance, but I guess with Paula, we will not really know for sure whether
yeah,
she's fit
exactly.
ever from this point onwards. So yeah, maybe that can also be a factor. And yeah, Muchova Swarna says that there was some wrist issues maybe as well in terms of her confidence in it. We were hoping for that Eastbourne withdrawal or Bad Homburg, but Eastbourne to be like preventive, but well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe really there was something. But yeah, hopefully she's just gonna get better with time and with more match play. Um, there are well, it kind of struck me just now that with Arena Sabalenka being out, we kind of have this situation where, like, in the bottom half, yeah, Coco Gauff, things have really opened up for her. But there are a few other contenders. Madison Keys, for example, did not have it all that easy against your countrywoman Martina Trevisan today, right? Despite it being grass.
Yeah, this not only despite being Ras, but also, despite this being a very, very bad season for Trevisan, actually, more or less, regardless of the surface. Mm, she hasn't really, done well this year so far. So I was not really expecting actually a competitive match, but it was. And yeah, for sure, Trevisan has played better than she's done. She's averaged this year in terms of the way she played. Also, Keys hasn't played her best career match. That's for sure. She's had some trouble, but I can also understand how. mm Trevisan was also a little bit annoying here with, some slices, and for Keys was not very easy at times to control everything. And so yeah, Kiss is another player who feels like she has a chance, of course, because the highest seed in her section is Paulini, which is, he started winning matches on the grass for sure, but has not this grass pedigree to let you think at her as the favorite of that section, probably over Madison. But yeah, of course, it's another player whose judgment probably gonna wait a little bit, because we've seen some good things today, we've seen some things that have been not so good, and yeah, hopefully, she will bring up her level for the next challenges, because so far, this match hasn't really been the best. If we were expecting, we are expecting a very, very deep run from here, but of course, any match has its own story.
Yeah, I do think that, of course, it kind of represents some issues as well with her, right? That, like, Coco, for
Yeah,
example, I think would not be the favorite against Madison in the fourth round if they play, or the quarters. I don't remember what the exact round it is. But who
the
is more
quarter.
likely to get there? It's definitely Coco. Yeah. Well, we'll see how Madison can just progress through the event, and if she goes deep, she will have some chances for sure. And yeah, I think there are maybe two more stories here from the women's event I would like to talk about. One is going to be Qinwen Zheng losing to Lulu Sun
Yeah.
in free sets. How much of a factor did you think Kinven was going to be in this event? Is it just, a case of her still being unable to master the grass?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, it feels like with the draw that opened up, you can also think like, if she manages to get some wins regardless of the level, and then you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, overall, I didn't really think, uh, you know, of her as, like a contender of really big factor in this tournament, because she has a lot of troubles on the grass. Having also watched her play live a couple of matches, and not the one against Osaka in Berlin, but especially the one against Siniakova. Siniakova was able to expose basically all the troubles that Kiwan still has on the grass, in terms of how she moves, and also her ground strokes, who really needs a lot of time to be clear, and because of this movement that she got with both on both sides, forehand and backhand, especially the forehand. And so yeah, I don't know if I was not really expecting at some point here to lose this one, because the match, despite some trouble and despite not being easy, she was still able to win this first set. She had some great chances, and then I was like, okay, if he's able to use these chances to go up a break in the second, then also with the serve, she can also help herself. But overall, it still felt for me before this tournament kind of a matter of time, that she had to lose. I never really think it there being a potential big factor. So I'm a bit surprised actually from today's loss, even if I was not giving for granted a win. But yeah, overall, it doesn't change a lot for me in terms of the event economy. Talking about contenders,
Yeah, I think there was this one random Wimbledon. I think it was 2022 when when Kinveren was looking horrible in the warm ups, and then she comes to Wimbledon and actually wins a couple of matches. And I was thinking, okay, she's found her footing, but now it's like she just wasted another grass season, kind of. And
yeah,
well,
more or
to an
less.
extent, maybe it's not her fault. I mean, in Berlin, yeah, she gets one match done, but it's just one set. Shinyakova, sure, it's a very tough opponent on grass, but yeah, today especially, sure. I mean, yeah, I also wasn't considering her as like a massive factor for this event, but yeah. What's wrong with her movement on grass, Ghosty? It's tough to explain. You just gotta see it. I mean, it's just extremely hard to explain this, I guess. But you just see that it's uncomfortable. You just see that it's
Yeah,
not
it's
as
not
she
comfortable.
can't
That's what
move
I
from
wanted
corner
to
to
say.
corner. Yeah, she can't move as quickly as other players to, from corner to corner. She can't set up for her shots too well. It's just kind of, yeah, overall uncomfortable, if that makes sense. And Swarna says very rightfully that she has been mediocre since the Australian Open as well. That's true. That patch that she had basically between the US and the Australian Open is definitely a bit gone. But else, I also wanted to touch on Emma Raducanu, maybe the last thing, although you guys in the chat are also bringing up Pavlyuchenkov at Townsend and bringing up Schneider's win over Pliskova, which, yeah, we did kind of touch upon. But yeah, that was that section where basically anyone winning was going to be really strong in the rest of the event and dangerous. Of course, Schneider just coming off a huge run. But Emma Raducanu as well against Renata Zarazua. That was not that comfortable. I mean, this
No.
Alexandrova withdrawal opened up a huge chance for Emma, but after today, are you sure that she's going to be able to take it?
Uh, I mean, yeah, sure, it's a very, very big word. Because I mean, if she plays at today's level, even a player who is uncomfortable, I mean, not so comfortable on the surface like Sakari, why can't Sakari trouble her if Emma's level is not good, given that Sakari still has to
Elise
win a match.
Mertens
Exactly,
on
Elise Mertens. um Elise Mertens, yeah. So it's difficult to think right now because the match hasn't been great. I also understand that it hasn't really been maybe um a very, very easy situation. I don't know if probably also a little bit extra pressure comes in when you're suddenly on the Wimbledon center court, and in a couple of hours you're not going to face someone like Alexandrova, but a lucky loser Zarazua, and you're suddenly expected to play very well, especially in an open section of the draw. But yeah, overall she got better as the match went on. She closed the match in a good way, but overall it's been a performance of big ups and downs. So yeah, we'll see. But there are some experienced players, as you were mentioning, that I can see, of course, troubling here. The match against Mertens feels like a big test for sure, because Mertens, even if maybe she's not in the best moment in singles of her career, but she's still a very, very strong player that you need to beat, especially in these tournaments. It's not an easy, super easy match. So for sure, it's a match that will tell us a lot about whether Emma looks really like someone who's going to have a deep run of or not.
Yeah, I mean, if her ground strokes weren't going through the court against Zarazua, are they going to be much better against Mertens? I'm not really sure about that, but yeah, we'll see. Definitely, it was not like a kind of confidence building win, in my opinion. Like, it
No,
wasn't something that really told me, oh yeah, she's getting that quarterfinal, because that's kind of where I was thinking, Alexandrova or Raducanu could go. But yeah, certainly. Who is the best grass court player, Sworna, in remaining in the bottom half? My money would be on Keys. Maybe it's gonna be Goff, simply based on like overall quality rather than grass experience. but my money would be on Madison Keys. And yeah, I guess with this we can go to the men's events. There's a lot of talk about Shelton in the chat, with Alex putting in some very interesting comments about the serve of Ben. So let's maybe start there. This match is going to be
Yeah.
continued tomorrow between him and Bellucci. 2 sets to 1 up Mattia right now. Personally, I think it's not like Ben's serve wasn't that effective, but just they pretty much serve at the same level if we count into consideration that, like, if we take into consideration the fact that Ben's return game is so low margin. Obviously Bellucci is like more about the angle than the insane power that Shelton can generate, but Ben isn't the smartest server out there, isn't the most varied server out there yet, maybe. Or actually he can be, but maybe he isn't like fully taking advantage of that. So yeah, I mean, to me it's just another kind of woeful Shelton performance, in the sense that he's not executing his game at like at a horrible level. Like, definitely not. It just kind of represents the issues, right? The fact that his
Yeah.
return and his baseline game have zero control or regulation on them.
I mean, we tend usually we talking about, I don't know, people in general. We tend to make the speech about how good a player can be on grass too simple, in my opinion, because we tend at
Yeah.
times we tend to be like, oh, okay, good serve, can have a good forehand, lefty, so he's going to be good on grass. Okay, you can see that there is probably the potential in that, but then you have to develop, of course, your game to the surface. You have to be able also to neutralize what grass can also help your opponents. For example, a lot of player can serve, will be able to serve a bit better probably than usually. Their serve can be a bit more effective on the grass, especially, not only power but also some angles. So if a player is able to use the slice very well, for example, and if your level on return is, doesn't go higher, and then of course it becomes very very difficult, because all these matches starts being playing on very very few points. And then maybe, for example, also in Shelton's case, is also not the most consistent player, talking about his mental presence in the match. So at times he can get also in trouble during these long matches. And so for sure he can be, in my opinion, a very good grasscourt player, but he needs to develop some things on of his game if he wants to take that, to have that quality jump. Because right now, especially his ability to neutralize what grass can give also to his opponent are not the best. And this makes his matchups even more uncomfortable than they should have been.
Yeah, definitely. I did not call Shelton Dam Ghosty. I don't know if you misheard anything or something. But yeah, Alex also brings up this point from Gil, which I guess is kind of true. But then again, I mean, a lot of horrible backhands actually do well on grass because they can slice the ball, right? I don't know, like Matteo Berrettini. But anyway, there's going to be a lot of excitement coming up with Shelton Bellucci tomorrow. But yeah, so far with the return game of Ben and with his overall, like, lack of control over his baseline game, it's just kind of what you expect from Ben at this stage. He's had a very rough grass swing, and I did think that Bellucci was pretty much even the favorite of that match. Although I thought they were gonna play a bit more tie breaks, but yeah, so far it's like been kind of like, one break a set, more or less. Anyway, that's probably it on Shelton Bellucci. We gave them quite a lot of time here. Let's talk about some other clashes that we had. Let's maybe talk about Yannick Sinner, the top seed losing a set to Yannick Hanfmann. And there was some shakiness in the third set. Maybe let's also combine this with talking about Matteo Berrettini, who is going to play in the second round. Let me phrase this question that way. After today, are you more or less confident in Matteo Berrettini potentially having a shot against Yannick Sinner?
Probably people gonna expect another answer. I'm going to say less, actually. because
Okay.
because for me it will depend more on Matteo's level if the match is going to be close. Because Sinner, even if having some shaking moments, today I wanted to see a better version of Matteo Berrettini and to be more confident about it. And for me it's not more and not less. Actually, even less it's wrong. My opinion has remained pretty much the same, actually, because yeah, you were mentioning this about Yannick, but in the end I haven't seen a flawless performance from Berrettini or something that left me like, wow. For me, Matteo is looking very, very strong. So for me, my opinion has remained more or less the same, actually. So no, not really more and not really less, actually.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I think most people will probably say more. Matthew is just straight up disrespectful to Matteo Berrettini. And if that upset happens, Matthew, I will be gunning for you. However, I have to say, yeah, to me, Matteo played perfectly fine, besides the third set when he was struggling with his back, which of course is a worrying thing on its own as well, right? I mean, that's kind of the main issue as well with Berrettini, whether he's going to be able to sustain a very physical match, like a lot of physical intensity against Sinner, probably more than he had to today against Fucsovic. Then he took some pills, probably painkillers. Fourth set, he was back to playing extremely well, just like using his full grass court arsenal. And with Sinner, to be honest, I kind of missed most of that match. I was straight up just like not watching it because I figured, yeah, Yannick Handman is not beating Yannick Sinner in the battle of Yannicks. And then when I saw the third set, I was like, okay, maybe I should tune in. But then I decided to still keep watching other encounters. So yeah, I don't know if I'm more or less confident either. I think it's pretty much the same. I would have been more if Berrettini's win did not include the back issues. Like if Berrettini's win was like straight up 4 sets, but Marton plays very well to get the third, and we have sets 1, 2, and 4 looking like they did today, I would have been more confident. But because that back problem is there, I don't know. I think Berrettini is just gonna have to like throw himself into some extra hard rehab the next 2 days, and then he might have a shot. Like he just needs to go absolutely all out, to have a reasonable chance there. Does Sinner have
Yeah,
the
I mean,
most
that's
flawless
possible.
skill set in the whole ATP? What can he not do at an elite level? Yeah, sure, Norlan. I mean, if we're just talking like shot for shot, yeah. I think we've been talking about this a lot. That like no one can go shot for shot with Yannick right now, right? and and that's kind of something that like Alcaraz to beat him this year twice, he had to come up with something. He had to be creative, which is also a skill in its own, and that's kind of something that Sinner might not have. I mean, his game is very high percentage. His game is like, fantastic technically, but he's not exactly the most inventive player in the world. He's kind of predictable in a way as well, but that's I mean that's just a playstyle thing. But yeah, in terms of like the skill set, maybe you're right there.
Yeah, I tend to agree. In the end, we're talking about super super elite players. So, and yeah, in the end, just going back a little bit from this second round against Berrettini, actually I was not looking forward to it, and I'm not looking forward to it, I'll be honest. Not because I don't think that it cannot be interesting, but you know I'm trying to think also. For me it's difficult to imagine something different that what it was, for example, the Berrettini Alcaraz match. I don't know. I'm not talking really about the score or the tactical thing, because it's going to be very different from that point of view. But I can see Berrettini troubling for some time, entering in a very very good mode, and then Sinner can have trouble. But I'm just worried about for how long that Berrettini's mode, who can really trouble Yannick, can last over the course of the match. That's my biggest concern about the matchup we're going to watch.
I'm super excited for it. I'm sorry. If it is Sinner in free, I'm gonna be very disappointed for sure. And well, hopefully it's just not something physical with either player really. Hopefully they're just about to give us the best possible match between them. And to me, Berrettini is like one of the top 10 players probably in the draw. So that's why it's so good. Well, in a way, I mean, for us as viewers, it's so good to have them battling this early in the draw and having that sort of potential classic, which we'll see if it ends up being a classic. And a lot of that will boil down to physicality. Did you guys see Sinner's ankles bound up? I don't know. Do you mean like a stabilizer or I don't know?
I actually don't haven't got what the question is going to. Uh, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So if we are talking
ankle
about
brace.
this, yeah, they are always like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Sinner will eat up Mateo's slice. Also, I got excited last year and he played Carlos, and we know what happened. I mean, what happened? We got a great match out of this. I don't really understand people backtracking right now. Well, I'm not saying you are. You probably were disappointed last year. But I think a lot of people I've seen like are kind of now saying that Berrettini Djokovic 2021 final that was not a match. Djokovic that Berrettini Alcaraz last year it was not a match. And I just am not in that position. I think both were entertaining. I think Mateo was pretty
No, yeah,
live
I
in
think
both
probably
matches.
people.
Sure, last year after the first set, it wasn't really that close, but especially the Berrettini Djokovic final, like it was perfectly fine. I can't really understand why everyone is suddenly saying that Berrettini cannot beat players like this on the grass. I think he can. But yeah, sure. I mean, we will kind of see on Wednesday, although we might also not if he's not fully fit, which, well, we'll see about that.
I think probably these people tend to see, because maybe also in that moment they had the idea of what was going to happen, and probably what happened was exactly what they were thinking. It was about to happen, and so probably just in terms of who is going to win a match. But of course, both were matches. Yeah, that's for sure.
Let's talk about some other things from the men's draw now. What else? Yeah, I'm kind of blanking on it right now, but anyway, of course, we also had some three-layer five setters as usual. I don't think either of them was like necessarily maybe that impactful for the event. But let's maybe start from the bottom and talk a bit about
Yeah.
the grass specialist Casper Ruud, who had a very good performance, I think, against Alex Bolt. Like, can Casper Ruud just win a few rounds? Not based on his grass pedigree, but just based on the quality of his serve and forehand alone. And perhaps especially in the year of 2024, when he has that more aggressive mindset. If he really puts his mind to it, I really think he can actually, just make the third round, play Sonego in a 50-50 clash, maybe even make the fourth round, where he would probably lose, I think. But, well, that would still be a good result for him at Wimbledon.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the draw, there was Kupfer. After Kupfer, especially went out, because probably I think this, Kupfer being, left, he can play well and can mix things probably in a way Casper wouldn't like. I saw that, Bolt can bring some experience on grass. I was expecting probably a bit more of, probably was not expecting really a three setter, even if I was still expecting actually Casper to win, because I feel like, yeah, he's not title contender, but he still can serve well. He has a good forehand, and maybe he's not built for the grass, but can still fire some forehand winners here and there, and play well at some points. So now he faces Fognini. Fognini played a good match today, but it feels like an opportunity for him to reach around three anyway, because I don't know, for example, a couple of years ago I faced Hugo Humbert. Last year probably there was a bit more of an opportunity against Brody, but still, Brody was in a different position than he is, for example, this year. um yeah, it feels an opportunity. Today's performance was good, especially if we consider all the things we always have to consider about Casper at Wimbledon. First match, competitive match on the grass. So it was a good performance. So why not? At least reaching a career best result at Wimbledon. I'm not talking about going too far. I cannot. You
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to.
yeah. I know. I figured it out. Why do people think that matches from a year or two ago matter? People change and conditions change. If that's in reference to Berrettini Alcaraz, I mean, I think if anything, Matteo was in a better position going into Wimbledon this year than last year. So, maybe it's an argument for that, but I don't know. Can you imagine if Coco and Ruth wins Wimbledon? Damon would make excuses not to come to the final last ball drop show. Uh, I mean, one thing out of that is not happening. The
Yeah, for
other,
sure.
it could. The other, it very well could. I think Coco, especially now that Arena is out, is probably maybe even the top five contenders for Wimbledon rather than top 10, as I said this morning. Yeah, otherwise, when it comes to the other players who sort of maybe impressed on the day, I don't think there's much to talk about regarding Medvedev, so I think we're just gonna skip that. Maybe let's talk about Frances Tiafoe. Who kind of said something pretty controversial today. You know, he after beating Matteo Arnaldi, and that was a win where like he was 2 sets to of down, but he never was in danger. It was kind of like that Djokovic Nori thing a couple of years ago. No,
Mm.
Djokovic Sinner actually at Wimbledon in 2022. But yeah, Frances Tiafoe came out and said that last few months are like recently he's been losing to clowns. And I don't know. I mean, I pulled up the list of Tiafoe's losses. I mean, I remembered most of them, of course, not everyone. And I was expecting to see some clowns in there, but I don't really see them, you know? I don't know. Is Arthur Rinderknecht really a clown? I mean, I don't think anyone can really call him that. Or like Kepfer or Giron, you know, they're beating half the tour. Like, sure, they might not be as like naturally talented as Tiafoe, but they're beating half the tour at the moment. You also have, sure, Hijikata recently. I don't know, maybe, but that was a retirement. There was also Federico Coria, which, like, on clay, can Frances Tiafoe really call Federico Coria a clown? And I will kind of say that to me, Frances Tiafoe is the one who looks like a clown in this situation.
Absolutely. First of all, because why do you need to call some, you're not being honest, even this thing. I don't like this thing that for being honest or for be yourself you have to say something, controversial or that doesn't fit right. You could have just said that you've had some bad losses, or just, which is the case, you haven't had, any consistency, any run this year. This is more the case. It's not like, I also went to check actually, because I was like, I don't really remember. Of course I remember a couple maybe of, bad losses, but a bit far from calling people clowns. It's, yeah, it looks like a bit of a stupid things to say. There are in there a lot of losses against also players like Tsitsipas, Paul, and I don't know, this now I remember. And whatever, I don't know
Mitch
really what.
O'Connell was there as well. I mean, again, that's like kind of, such a seasoned pro by now, just like Rinderknecht. I mean, how would you call that a clown, really?
Yeah, in the end, so it's difficult also for me to comment on on the quote, because I don't know, I personally, I didn't really like it. For me this is not really funny actually, but I haven't watched the clip. Maybe if I watch the clip and I hear his voice when, but I don't know, from the line I don't really understand, a funny thing in in the line, whatever. And today, good thing, after, never been in danger, but probably in other moments this year you would have, I don't know, maybe lost a bit of focus here and there, or in the fourth or in the fifth, and probably going, I don't know, down a break, and then suddenly the match becomes difficult again. So even without really going close to the defeat, it's being, a good sign that he played three straight sets, without having any real setback, and you know, so let's see now, because consistency is also have been a problem for him lately, winning back-to-back matches and playing well for a prolonged period. So let's see now how things goes on for him. But as a first round, good reaction after losing the first two sets.
Yeah, and Matthew, when it comes to Foe making a run here, his third round is Carlos Alcaraz, so no. But of course, he should beat Borna Coric in the second round, given the form
Yeah,
of
if he beats
Coric.
Chorich and plays decently against Carlos, we can call it a good Wimbledon, considering, especially
Yeah,
considering the place he's in.
yeah, takes a set or like pushes Carlos. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it's already a great Wimbledon for Francis. But it's kind of impossible to think about a run given Alcaraz is in the third round.
No, because he's
And
not a clown.
yeah, it's not the U.S. Open 2022 anymore,
No, absolutely.
unfortunately for Francis. Um, anyway, I'm kind of struggling to find like because there were a few amazing five setters today. Altner wasting a match point and kind of handling the win to Vukic. Berg's Kazo was insane. There was that situation where like Zizou was 0-2 down in sets, and he actually never broke Kazo, but still came 2 points away from the win on multiple occasions.
And he was also
So it was
7-0 down in the final set tiebreak.
And yeah, the tiebreak was insane too. Haris, the match point, actually made it to, despite being from outside courts, it actually made it to like Wimbledon socials and stuff, which I'm very grateful for that because when I saw it, I was like, oh wow! But what a shame no one will ever see it. Actually, people did see it. Just a crazy point, up and up, running up and down all over the place. Alex says that Kazo must have served amazing, and yeah, he did. As usual, that was kind of like his main thing here. Also, moving really well around the grass and kind of in the key moments, getting some errors from Zizou that maybe shouldn't have happened. But yeah, just a few amazing five setters, I suppose. Menchik Bublik a bit less so because it was so physical. But anything about either of these matches that you wanted to touch on, or maybe Thompson Kotov, or well, I think that was all five setters actually. Altmaier Ferry as well was pretty crazy with both guys having an MTO at the same time and just a straight up hospital on the court.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I was kind of excited even before today watching this Bergs Kazo match because it felt, especially, Bergs is playing at a very, very good level, qualifying in style to the main draw. We know what he can bring. Is we've seen it last weekend. Kazo, he has all what it takes to do a good grass court player, and so it was for sure interesting for me. I watched almost the entire match, despite being day one, and so switching a bit here and there to try to catch up on everything. And yeah, I think that for sure, when you lose a match this way, for example, from Bird's perspective, it can be tough at the beginning, but for both, there are some positive things to take. And now Kazo, he had a tough moment after a great start of the year. He had a tough moment because of some injuries, some things that happened, and right now he's trying to to make his way back. And I feel like today's match proved that he is very, very small margins, even if the first couple of sets felt straightforward and were more or less, especially the very beginning of the match. So that was a great one. And I was also interesting in what would have happened in the one between Kotov and Thompson. And in the end, we've had this comeback because I've also heard from some people talking about a potential good run for Thompson, run potential second week. And there is a chance probably. But yeah, the first round felt difficult, as it has been, because of Kotov. Kotov has some unbelievable ground strokes at times, and that actually can pay on every kind of court. I don't see really conditions where these ridiculous ground strokes cannot pay. And yeah, these have been two of these five setters, the two I've watched the most and haven't enjoyed the most, if I have to say. And for all the four players, there are some positive things to take. Of course, probably Kotov just could have been a bit closer to win, even if 4-4-4 it's not the best scoreline then. But yeah, for all four it's been a good afternoon, even if for some it's been happy and for some not.
Yeah, I think Thompson was kind of similar to who was it that I mentioned earlier was like Djokovic Sinner.
Tiafo.
I don't remember, but oh yeah, Tiafoe. That like in the next three sets there was no chance for Kotov whatsoever. I think it was only at 4-1 double break in the fifth set when
Yes,
Kotov
exactly.
actually got something going finally. So yeah, I mean Jordan just kind of outplayed him completely. But yeah, I of course agree with the points on Kotov. I think especially that super flat forehand is very dangerous on any slick court. So like a fast indoor surface or grass is kind of where it's at his strongest. But yeah, he's good anywhere. And but yeah, basically with the men's, there's not that much to talk about. I think we'll spend the last 10-15 minutes of the show talking about what's to come tomorrow. But anything else on the men's side you wanted to talk about? I'm just going to mention and give a brief shout out to Otto Virtanen for playing such a focused match against Max Purcell. So weird that Otto just, I don't know. And when anytime he comes up against Purcell, he just plays the best tennis of his life for whatever reason. And
Yeah,
yeah,
and
he was
he
able
hasn't
to once
stayed
again just hit
in
through the
Wimbledon
slice.
all the
And
time. He had to come back to Finland because
I
someone
know, I know,
close
yeah.
close
His
died, and he had
grandpa's
to come
funeral.
back, and then he came back to Wimbledon and finally got his Grand Slam main draw win at the third attempt. But yeah, it's been, this one has also been a very good performance. As I also have been kind of surprised looking at the scoreline because I haven't watched the match actually, but the scoreline kind of talks for for itself, and yeah, very very good to see. Yeah, there's Bublik being mentioned also.
Yeah, I
Depending.
mean, Bublik was simply in his gritty answer again, in
Yeah.
his gritty 2024 mode, right? And he just
Yes,
kind of
exactly.
out physicaled Menchik. I'm sure. I mean, it was pretty impressive, but it was mostly like a physical win. And when it comes to Nurlan's question, I would say no, because there's probably a lot of planets we don't know about. So in
Good
the
answer.
Milky Way, yes, maybe, and in the solar system, maybe, but in terms of the overall galaxy and stuff and then, the world, yeah, not really. Anyway, yeah, tomorrow there's gonna be a lot more a lot of action as well, obviously even more than today because Shelton Brewery.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be 65 matches instead of 64. But yeah, where do we even start? I mean, is there any like proper blockbuster tomorrow that you're excited to follow?
Uh, no, no. I mean, talking about the main court, I'm looking right now at also at the order of play just to remember myself at all the matches. Let's say that. mm first three courts, there's not really. Collins Towson can be a good match. For example, Collins hasn't played on grass this year. She took a rest after her early loss at the French Open, so you know this can be a good match in my opinion. And yeah, on the women's side, there's something because we got, for example, Tomljanovic against Ostapenko. We saw that Ostapenko can do very well. It's a battle of two, Wimbledon quarterfinalists, and so this one for sure can be a good match. Uh, Taylor Fritz, just seeing, for example, how he plays after Eastbourne and Wimbledon faces O'Connell. O'Connell is one of these players who, I don't know, I always struggle to read how he's going to do. Um, because I've seen it in time playing better than I was expecting, at time worse than I was expecting. So it's a bit difficult. But of course, there is also something good of as always coming up of on the outside courts. For example, let's say that the match between Fils and Stricker for me will be interesting. For me, will be interesting to see, how the two players are, and just going down, the match between Koboli and Nijikata can be fun. If both players are able to bring a good level, this can be a fun match played on an outside court, for example. And yeah, probably, another one who can be good, for example, between Garcia and Blinkova, because these two are players that you never know which version of themselves will show up. So this for sure can have some interesting, things to look at. And yeah, it's more or less this. Cordam Pesci Pericard can be fun. If these are always kind of roller coasters from Pericard on the grass this year. Corda is looking strong on the grass, but you never know. And yeah, more or less, I don't know. That's it, more or less, probably for me. I don't know if you looked at something else.
Yeah, I think Cordan Pecci Pericards is definitely huge, just in terms of the implications for the rest of the event as well. And the
Yeah,
fact that, yeah, you never really want to play guys like that because it's just a lottery. You don't really know if they're gonna give you, well, you know that you're not gonna get any rhythm from them.
yeah,
And basically, suddenly, after having Davidovich Fokina in round one, which already looked dangerous for Sebi, he gets an even worse matchup here. So yeah, it's not easy, and it really might impact the event in a pretty huge way because Korda is expected to make it like relatively deep, probably. Give me a moment.
yeah, sure. For me, let's say that it feels like every match of the seeded players in the third quarter of the draw feels kind of big for the event in itself, because the third quarter looks like more or less the most open one, because the top seed is Zverev, that on Wimbledon never really did that well, and Rublev's looking shaky, and there are also these players like Fritz and Korda who come into the tournament with good hopes, but you also never know. So it feels like in that quarter, any match can be important to kind of determine what's going to happen, for example, their presses in the second week and even further.
Yeah, I mean Mari playing Mahach, of course, that's going to be pretty big if it happens. And he's supposed to be taking that decision in the morning. He's desperate to play, despite clearly having a hard time actually committing to it. But yeah, he wants to retire in Paris, and he can't do it without without one more Wimbledon appearance. So he's kind of desperate to play. I will be watching Alice Eubanks definitely. There's that big story of Chris potentially falling out of the top 100, and I think Alice can have a great run at this event if he beats Eubanks. That's kind of the biggest ones for me on the men's, I would say. And then probably on the women's, if I'm looking at it, you mentioned some of the better ones. Rybakina opener against Rusa could be pretty interesting. Rusa had one of her better, like one of her breakthroughs was at Wimbledon when she played Radwanska. She didn't win that match, but it was absolutely stunning from her. Tomljanovic Ostapenko, it's such a huge upset alert as well in the opening round. Wozniacki against Parks. I would love to see if Alicia's amazing run continues, if she's going to sort of maintain it the way when she won these two 125s. I think Haddad Maya can be upset by Ferenc, like it's totally possible, given her mediocre form and how good Magda can be on the grass. But yeah, overall, I think the day looks kind of a little less interesting to me than today.
Putintseva
I
Kerber,
get what you said about the third quarter. Uh-huh.
Putintseva Kerber is also one, because Putintseva is in good form, but maybe Kerber, even if she's
Sure.
not in good form, but can still have her things to say in the match. Probably also that one.
Yeah, I think what you said about the third quarter, like I totally get it, but some of that tomorrow is not relevant yet to me because like Rublev is not losing to Komesania on grass,
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
Tsitsipas is not losing to Taro Daniel on grass and stuff. But yeah, these are things that will be sort of more of a point later in the week. Yeah, second round or third rounds definitely. Haddad Maya isn't in mediocre form. I mean, she absolutely is, isn't she? I don't
Yeah,
know.
she is. Yeah, I
Um,
agree with you. She
am I
is.
forgetting about something?
I don't think so, actually.
Yeah.
I also don't remember any good run lately.
My
So
my internet is failing.
Yeah, no, I was just
Yeah, my
saying that I
internet is
can't.
failing for some reason during this ATP Weekly. But yeah, same goes for like Draper in the third section, like right. So many seeds that yeah, sure they might have some sort of vulnerability, but just not tomorrow. Zverev as well against Karbaez. I mean, obviously he's not losing that on grass either.
Yeah.
Can
What
you
do you
hear
want,
me?
John?
I had this
Yeah,
discussion with you like 3 months ago about Haddad Meyer, and I said she's in mediocre form. By the way, look at Mario's looking like what's going on here? Like a civil war is about to take place. No, she's been in mediocre form all year, and now you jump on the mediocre form bandwagon.
He wanted more
I mean,
material.
you know,
He wanted more material. All right, all right.
beginning of the season, United Cup, she was okay, right? Like, didn't she also do something in like a February event, or was it 2023? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the last 4 months or so have been just pretty awful for her, I suppose. So yeah, I don't know. But
Listen, the
well,
only thing I
she was
liked
not
about
in
this
mediocre
discussion
form
was
last year,
Mario's. He
and
needed
then
more material. I like that. I like that, Mario.
Because I'm also like that,
mhm.
actually. I'm
Yeah, I
not
don't
like
remember that.
two, three
I don't
tournaments.
remember that,
I
to be
still
honest.
don't want to judge. So I actually happy that you
Yeah, you
mentioned.
have to
uh,
exactly like you. Uh huh.
No, sorry, I am having a bit of trouble because, but I was happy that you mentioned Rus against Rybakina because when it was there, I was like, I mean, of course, Rybakina is the big favorite, but I always like Rus's way of playing. I feel like she can always be kind of dangerous when Rus has also had a lot of physical issues also, and whenever she was starting playing better, she had setbacks. I still think, of course, that Rybakina will win, but for me, it was considering the top four seeds opening round. For me, it was the most interesting one, and one didn't even happen between Sabalenka and Bektas. But for me, it's more interesting actually that one between Swiatek and Kenin, where I don't really think Iga is in danger. Actually, I have to be honest.
Woo. Ooh, and I actually think she might be. I mean, Kenny, I know she's had a horrible year other than like that one match, really, one set against Iga. She's like 7-16 for the year, but she's been stepping up for these matches, you know. She came out
That's
with
right.
such an aggressive mindset against Iga in Melbourne. She pretty much was like winning every point in 4 shots on both serve and return. If she wasn't, then she was losing. But here Iga won't have that much, I guess, freedom in terms of outmaneuvering her in the longer rallies. Even I don't know. I just don't expect Iga's timing to be that sharp from the get go. But yeah,
No,
Rusa
same,
certainly.
but
If I was
I
Vanch
don't know
right
if
now, I would.
I
Mhm.
same, but I don't know if I really expect this being close to an upset. I'm kind of expected more or less the same thing of the Australian Open. I'm not talking about the score. I don't know if we're going to see a tie break, but Iga getting better as the match goes on. This is what I have in my mind right now.
Just came to me. That's kind of random. But if I was Vanch, I would make the comparison between Rusa and Koniuk, right? Because both had a fantastic match with
Mhm.
Agnieszka Radwańska at Wimbledon years back, and then they had injuries, injuries, and injuries and injuries. But yeah, Rusa a little more healthy than Anna Koniuk at least.
Yeah,
Although
absolutely.
also she didn't get to Anna Koniuk's achievements like the U.S. Open quarters. So well, I guess it's a different story in a way. But yeah, Kirit also says Blinkova over Garcia upset. Would it be an upset? A little bit, but like
Not
barely,
really.
you know. Any Caroline Garcia loss right now is not really an upset. I mean, she can beat anyone, she can lose to anyone. Same with Ostapenko in that section. So definitely a couple of volatile seeds, but if they get to the fourth round, they will be pushing Iga Świątek, I think. But yeah, anyway, that's probably gonna be it, right? I mean, do we have anything else to talk about?
I just wanted to ask you a question, if I can.
Uh-huh.
What do you expect from Jabeur from this Wimbledon?
If she's serious about being a threat for this, I think she should absolutely make the fourth round. But by the time she gets to the fourth round, you got Pegula there probably, and that's gonna be like a match where yeah, sure, it's a 50-50 or thereabouts. I think I had her winning that one, but then losing to Rybakina or something like that. But yeah, it's kind of like a Hurkacz situation, maybe, right? Where you have like they kind of need to get to the fourth round, regardless who's there, and after that it's just gonna be a lot of coin flips. So yeah, I think a fourth round loss for Ons, even if it's not acceptable, given that she was in the final 2 years in a row, it would be kind of acceptable because, well, she would be playing Pegula probably, unless it's not Pegula in the fourth round, then it kind of changes. But yeah, fourth round is a must. After that, it's anyone's game.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Also, how probably, even a loss against Pegula can come in very different ways.
Oh yeah,
So
sure. Yeah.
probably
If it's
also
like a
that.
total blowout, or if she's as nervous as she was in the final against Vondroushova last year, yeah, that wouldn't be a good loss. Yeah, but if it's like a tight match, I don't think it's a massive problem.
No.
But yeah, fourth round is a must. But after that, if she loses, it's probably not going to be a big deal. But yeah, there is a bit of uncertainty. Sure, I mean, health is always a question. She retired in Berlin. We're also going to have to monitor that situation tomorrow. Who is she playing? Can you remind me? 'Cause
Uchima.
I don't.
Uchima.
Uchijima? Is it Uchijima?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is, right? Moyuka Uchijima. Okay, never mind then. Yeah, then that's, I mean, yeah. It's expected of her to win, given her pedigree on the surface. It would be very disappointing if she didn't for her. But yeah, I guess that's what we're going to wrap on then.
Yeah.
Jesus. The internet really could be better today. But we brought you the first Last Ball Drops show of Wimbledon. You can expect that for the next 7-8 days, right, until the fourth round, basically, I think. And of course, there's going to be a lot of match commentary content as well coming up tomorrow, just like today. So keep tuning into that. Thank you to all the guys in the chat, either today on one of the watch-alongs or today or right now on Last Ball Drops. And thank you, Mario, for bringing this show with me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. See you guys.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.